who has the bad candidates now? That's the focus of tonight's Angle. For months, the regime media worked hard to build the narrative that the GOP had lost its mojo, that they'd blown a historic midterm opportunity, all because their primary winners were just terrible.
You do have Republicans nominating, shall we say, flawed candidates. Herschel Walker in Georgia, J.D. Vance in Ohio, Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania.
What looked like a wipeout for Democrats in the fall is maybe not going to be so bad because of the candidates Republicans are nominating.
Walker can lose, Oz can lose, Johnson can lose. They're bad candidates.
So smug and so wrong. Liberal super PACs even helped boost these so-called election denier Republicans in the primaries with the thought that they'd be easier to defeat in the general elections. Well, even our own Senate minority leader joined the pig pile against his own party, trying to tamp down his party's expectations by blaming the populists, the MAGA folks.
There's probably a greater likelihood the House flips than the Senate. Senate races are just different. They're statewide. Candidate quality has a lot to do with the outcome.
He's a barrel of laughs, isn't he? Well, just as McConnell was wrong about voting for Biden's so-called infrastructure bill, he was wrong to imply that Republicans just chose lousy candidates. Now, we all know the GOP establishment has been exposed for their mistakes on things like China trade and these endless wars. And I think it kind of makes them nervous when new faces appear on the scene who just aren't beholden to the old guard and who aren't afraid of them, afraid to challenge them even. They hated Trump for the same reason. Now, thank God we have a system where the people, not Washington dinosaurs, get to choose who best to represent them every election cycle. But if we're talking weak candidates, and we are talking weak candidates, the party that has them in spades is the Democrat Party. I mean, Governor J.B. Pritzker in Illinois, please. Who in his right mind can believe that he should win re-election? What has he actually done for the state other than preside over a huge population loss? Oh, I mean, other than, further wrecking education in the state by ordering schools to stay closed throughout the state through COVID. No wonder so many families left Illinois public schools. Meanwhile, Arizonans have a chance to elect Carrie Lake as their governor. She's dynamic, she's bold, and she's vowing to tackle the border and crime problems. But her Democrat challenger, Katie Hobbs, oh my, she's horrible in every way.
I've continued to meet with community leaders and focus on how we can not just build a campaign that's inclusive, but make sure that our government at every level of the administration reflects the diversity of the state of Arizona.
Oh, my goodness. She's as deadly boring and uninspiring, but, well, no more so than the Democrat Senator Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, who debated her challenger Don Bolduc this week. Now, instead of focusing on the fact that we could have heating oil rationing in New England this winter, she went back to 2020.
Here's the thing about election deniers, right? He is working and has been working to conceal how extreme he is. Don Bolduc can ignore where most Granite Staters are on those issues that I just talked about, right? Because he thinks he doesn't need to accept election results.
First of all, stop saying right. Oh, my gosh, painful. And then in a category by herself is Oregon's left-wing loon, Tina Kotek, who's running for governor there.
Portland in particular, in addition to making Measure 110 work, we need a meth stabilization center in Portland. We need a place for cops to take folks, not the emergency departments, when they are in a meth-related psychosis.
Meth stabilization centers. Now, Portland needs law and order, not ways to make drug use more convenient and more comfortable for people. Come on, Tina. Now, the Democrats are so worried about the seat that they sent Chief Princess Running Scared, a.k.a. Elizabeth Warren, out west to rally the Birkenstock troops there. But even she couldn't spin it, warning voters that Oregon is dangerously close to flipping red for the first time in 40 years. Now, Pocahontas and her tribe should be nervous Because Kotek's challenger, Christine Drazan, is just what the state needs: calm, cool, and tough on crime.
Tina Kotek is the original defund the police candidate. She did not support police even when rioters were attacking a police station. It's stunning to me that she would talk now like she supports law enforcement.
No, of course she doesn't. And look, Drazan is a no-nonsense Republican. Maybe not as conservative as I'd like, but this is, after all, the Pacific Northwest. Got to be realistic. Again, which party here has the bad candidates again? Now, as for that Georgia matchup between liberal Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker, the Democrats may wish that they hadn't revved up the smear machine. Because if Walker doesn't flinch, and if the hits keep coming and he keeps going, and then he goes on to win, he'll be a solid vote for sensible measures such as closing the southern border and opening new oil and gas pipelines. Now, with the nastiness, all of it that's been thrown at him, Walker will be battle-tested for what the swamp will bring him. And last but not least, and I could go on, let's not forget the worst of them all, Uncle John Festerman in Pennsylvania.
Hi, good night, everybody. I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand and I do support fracking. I don't ever recall in the Statue of Liberty did they say, take our tired, huddled masses and put them on a bus. That's like, he got his Pennsylvania house from his own inlays from $1.
Mr. Fetterman, we have to continue on.
Fetterman's debate performance was the worst in modern American history. There's no doubt about that. So this leaves Democrats in a huge bind. They're left trying to do the worst kind of spin.
The president has found him to be impressive, incredibly bright and talented person who's just as capable as always to carry out his office, the duties of his office, and has great ability and heartfelt concern for the people of the Commonwealth.
What I saw last night, when I saw John Fetterman, I think of courage. This guy stood up last night. God bless John Fetterman.
Do the voters of Pennsylvania really appreciate what happened on Wednesday? Now, it was an insult to them what happened to them on Wednesday. Now, God bless everybody, but that's not what the Pennsylvania voters need. They only get to send 2 senators to Pennsylvania, and this is the one that the Democrats chose as the best in the state to run? Really? And the same people who lied about Fetterman's condition were trying to tell us that Dr. Oz is supposedly the bad candidate in this matchup? A former heart surgeon and an entrepreneur from an immigrant family who achieved the American dream, that's the bad candidate? Yeah, nice try. The race is so dire there that Obama is swooping in. He's swooping into Western PA to try to do the rescue attempt. And they're so freaked out that even Biden and Kamala are pairing together at a rare rally appearance for Fetterman. Now that is truly desperate. Now here's the reality. We shouldn't judge candidates by whether the press likes them or whether big business likes them or whether they will go with the flow in D.C. We should judge them on whether they'll fight for the national interest and stand up for the American people. Now, this year, all over the country, Republican voters chose talented, self-made men and women who think for themselves and who will fight for you. The Democrats, they mostly nominated establishment hacks who'll do whatever Pelosi and Schumer tell them to do. And when a smart, independent thinker goes up against someone who just does what the handlers tell them, even the biased press, they can't help but recognize the difference in quality. We have better candidates, much better, and that is making a difference. And that's The Angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.